like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Elgin, the Monday, March 6th session. Look to staff to please call the roll.
Commissioner Abouali,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Migala,
Here.
Commissioner Valdez,
Here.
Commissioner Wildermuth,
Here.
and Chairman Cox.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from February 6th, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to review those, or are there any comments? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for the we'll entertain a motion for the approval of those meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Staff, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Wildermuth,
Yes.
Commissioner Abouali,
Yes.
Commissioner Migala,
Yes.
Commissioner Valdez,
Yes.
and Chairman Cox.
Yes.
The minutes are approved 6-0.
Great. We're clicking through the housekeeping, so that's good. Now we come to item D, which is my opportunity to welcome everyone here tonight. Got a good few of you with us out in the audience. Always want to welcome city staff, our court reporter, the staff in the back that do so much work to make this this session work as well, the broadcasting, those of you at home. Tonight is the March session. I can't believe we're already this far into 2023. We've got one petition on the agenda tonight, and as always, we'll hear more about these petitions, or this petition, coming up. But since we've got so many new faces with us here tonight, or faces we don't see as often, I want to go through the roles and kind of the purpose of tonight's meeting, and kind of the process that we're going to go through as well. So just considering this commission's role is to be a recommending body to City Council. It's the opportunity for everyone who's with us here tonight to give us their thoughts, ask questions, and to be a part of the public hearing portion of this petition. We open and close the public hearing portion tonight, so tonight's the opportunity. If you got questions, please, 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 you know, when it's your turn, we'll let you know what that is, to come on up to the lectern and be part of that process. So just hearing how this petition will work, though, we always look to city staff. They will review the staff report with us, go through that. We as a commission will ask questions of staff. Once they're done, then we ask the petitioner teams to come on up to the lectern over here to tell us their thoughts. And then we, again, as a commission, will ask questions of the petitioners. Following that, we open the petition up to public comment. So that's when those of you who may be here as concerned citizens, that's your opportunity to come up and tell us your thoughts as well. If there's any redirect, we would then ask the petitioner team to come on up and answer questions that were asked if they'd like to, and then we'll close the public hearing portion of the petition. We typically look back to city staff, want to give them a chance as well if there were any issues raised that they'd like to comment on. We'll give them that opportunity if they do so. If not, they just have any closing comments or anything. And then we as a commission will deliberate and vote on the petition. And again, that is a recommendation to City Council. So hopefully that makes sense. Everyone understands the process, and we'll go from there. We'll keep things orderly and make sure everybody's heard. So if you're on the petitioner team, if you decide to go forward with the petition, or if it's approved, there'll be typically 2 City Council meetings where the petition will be heard, and work with city staff on what those dates were. So at this point in time, we can move on with the agenda. The next item is the administration of the oath to persons desiring to testify. So if you think you might speak tonight, even if you aren't sure and maybe, please take this opportunity to be sworn in. So I'll ask all of you to rise and face the court reporter down here. All right, thank you for that. I guess we can move on to petitions to be considered. One item again, 353 to 355 South Randall Road. This has 2 petition numbers. 0523 and 0623.
Thank you, Chairman Cox, and good evening to everyone. The first petition before you tonight is the application by Randall Road Real Estate LLC as applicant and High Haven Dispensary LLC as property owner. We're requesting approval of an amendment to PAB Planned Area Business District established by Ordinance G901 as amended by Ordinances G5618 and G821, the departures from the Elgin Municipal Code requirements for the number of parking spaces and any other departures as may be necessary. And a conditional use to establish an adult use cannabis dispensary at the property commonly known as 353 to 355 South Randall Road. As usual, we'll start with the location of the subject property indicated here on the aerial map. The subject tenant space is 3,170 square foot space that's currently vacant and part of a 15,000 square foot multi-tenant building. This is all part of the 1.6 acre property that is located on the east side of Randall Road, just south of South Street. The access to the property is from DePaul Drive in the back, which is a private road. And let's see if we can try to use a pointer. All right. Oh, here, the arrow is working. So, as I mentioned, the access is from a private drive. That's the Paul Drive in the back. The existing tenants in the building include Dunkin' Restaurant, Top Shelf Sports Cards, a retail store, Kumon Math and Reading Center, World Finance, which is a loan service company, and Team Rehabilitation, which is a physical therapy office. As you can see, the properties to the north, south, and to the west all have a red shade to them. That means they're zoned commercial. To the north is the First Federal Savings Bank. That's part of the same PAB, Planned Area Business District. And then to the south is Tuffy's Auto Service, which is also part of the same PAB area district. To the east are 4 multifamily buildings that include 40 residential units. Those are zoned PMFR, Planned Multifamily Residence District. And then to the west across South Randall Road are commercial properties zone AB, area business, and include several establishments, including a gas station, Merlin Auto Center, and Batteries Plus retail store, among others. Here is a bird's eye view of the subject property. Again, in yellow is the subject tenant space. This aerial, or the bird's eye view, shows that access from the Paul Drive in the back. And then it also shows the drive-through lane for Dunkin' Donuts, which wraps around the building on the east side, with the pickup window on the north side of the building. So the applicant, High Haven Dispensary LLC, is proposing to open Elgin's first adult-use cannabis dispensary at 353 to 355 South Randall Road, indicated here in red. The 3,170 square foot space is currently vacant, and it's the only remaining vacant space within the building. As you may recall, back in 2019, after the state started allowing adult-use cannabis establishments, the City of Elgin amended its zoning ordinance requirements to allow all adult-use cannabis businesses. Most of those businesses are allowed in the industrial districts, such as craft growers, infusers, cultivation centers. However, the dispensaries are allowed in the commercial districts, and those include AB, NB, and the downtown CC1 and CC2 districts. The proposed establishment would operate as a retail dispensary with no consumption either proposed or allowed on the site, and there would be no manufacturing on the premises. So the applicant is proposing substantial interior renovation to the space, but they're not proposing any changes on the exterior to the building or to the site. This is the proposed floor plan. On the left is the entrance from the front parking lot, and then on the right would be the 2 doors and access to the rear parking lot. As you can see, at the front, they would establish a sort of a entry area, a vestibule, about 160 square feet, where a security guard would be stationed, and it would check the IDs of all persons desiring to enter. Only persons that are 21 years of age and older would be allowed to enter the sales floor area in the middle of the space. The applicant indicates they would allow only up to 5 persons per sales associate. They would expect to have up to 3 sales associates and possibly 1 additional staff person in the back, along with 2 security guards during their peak times. The 2 security guards would be present during all times the establishment would be open. The hours of operation are proposed to be from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. As you can see, the back of the space would include a vault where most of the product would be stored, some office rooms, storage areas, and then the delivery check-in area off the rear door. All product deliveries would be done through the back door. Here are a couple images of the building from the back. The one on the bottom is looking north, and then the one on the top is the back of the building looking south. As part of the city's requirements for dispensaries, they are required to be a minimum of 250 feet from what's called a sensitive land use. A sensitive land use is defined as a pre-existing public or private preschool or elementary or secondary school or daycare center, daycare home, group daycare home, part day child care facility, college or university, or a publicly owned or operated park or forest preserve. This location meets these requirements. The location is more than 400 feet from the nearest sensitive land use, and that being the KinderCare Daycare Center that's at 285 South Street, that's on the south side of Target if you're familiar with the area. The these sensitive land uses do not include residential uses, so there is no required setback from residential, either single-family homes or multifamily buildings. The city also has various other business regulations for these types of establishments. One of those includes a requirement that no advertising is allowed within 1,000 feet of a park. This location is located approximately 600 feet from Stone College Park at 370 Gale Street to the southeast of this building. And as such, this business is not allowed to advertise, and that includes no window signs of any kind within their display area on the front. They are allowed to have normal business signs, the establishment business signs. The proposed development does require one departure from the parking requirements. With the proposed dispensary, that requires 13 parking spaces on its own, and the other existing tenants in the building, the entire building is required to have 100 parking spaces. There are only 54 parking spaces on site. You may recall that back in 2021, when the city approved the establishment of Dunkin' restaurant with the drive-through service lane, the city did allow or approve a parking departure. That departure allows establishment of any permitted use on the property without the need to go through another zoning approval process. And that includes the establishment of any retail store or any restaurant that are allowed as a permitted use on the property. This dispensary is classified as a retail store. However, it is listed as a condition, or it would be listed as a conditional use, and therefore there's a need to approve another departure from the parking requirements. However, the parking conditions have not changed since 2021 when the city approved the last parking departure. Dunkin' is still the only restaurant on the premises that has the largest parking requirement for 37 parking spaces. However, their actual parking demand is far less, particularly because of the drive-through service lane. And then the peak times that the dispensary anticipates to have are on Thursday and Friday late afternoons, and then on weekends. That compares pretty well with the peak times of other tenants in the building. Dunkin's peak time is before 10 a.m., and again, most of their business comes from the drive-through lane. The physical therapy office is closed on the weekends. The Kumon Center has limited hours, usually in the after the school closes, so in the late afternoons, and then on Saturdays in the morning. And then the Top Shelf and World Finance They have, their hours are normal business hours, Monday to Friday, with some limited hours on Saturday and Sunday for the Top Shelf retail store. However, their parking demand is spread out throughout the day. The applicant has provided parking counts, and they have shown that the peak parking demand currently occurs on Thursday late afternoons when up to 30 parking spaces are occupied. That's 55% of the 54 parking spaces on site, so up to 24 parking spaces would be available for customers and employees of the dispensary, and the dispensary is required to have only 13 parking spaces on their own. So that demonstrates that the existing parking lot should adequately serve all existing tenants and the proposed dispensary. The application is required to meet the standards for map amendments, plan developments, and those for conditional use. We have provided our overview of the standards as usual in the staff report, and staff recommends approval subject to the conditions outlined in your packet. And of those, I'll just highlight a few. The applicant will have to provide proper state approval license prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy by the city. They will have to put up a sign that on-premise consumption is not allowed. They will not be allowed to advertise on site, as I mentioned, as required by the municipal code. They are not allowed to display any products, which they have agreed to in their display windows. And they are also not allowed to manufacture, as I mentioned, anything on premises. With that, again, staff recommends approval, subject to those conditions. The applicant's team is here and it's ready to address the commission.
Okay, thanks. We'll start with Commissioner Wildermuth. A few questions for staff.
Yeah, just relating to I think the sensitive use designation and just clarification in looking through the definitions of that, just it doesn't seem in the statement that a tutoring center doesn't fall into those conditions, but I just wanted to raise that point to see if there was any prior discussion about that.
Yes, obviously we're aware of the Kumon Center on the center. It is not deemed as a preliminary or, I'm sorry, elementary or secondary school, and obviously not a daycare center. So it does not qualify as one of those land uses, sensitive land uses.
Commissioner Valdez, questions for staff?
No.
Commissioner McGowan?
Just a question for the city. So I'm looking at your condition 9, and it just, it's a blanket kind of prohibition on advertising. Can we be a little bit more precise on the condition maybe and just say something like petitioner's advertising should not or shall comply with the restrictions, and I think it's code 6.07.100, which has that advertising restriction in it. I just think that flexible language is just a little bit better in case there's some, changes to the code down the road. That's, then the condition's satisfied no matter what happens to the ordinance.
Yeah, absolutely. We completely agree. That particular condition does come specifically from that provision in a municipal code, and the intent was for that to not be lost and forgotten. So the language of that condition number 9 sort of specifically mimics that language, but we would completely agree with the change to that condition, that it reflects solely onto the particular section of the code of municipal code.
Yeah. Do my fellow commissioners understand the issue I raised? Okay. Thanks. Nothing further.
Commissioner Jones?
No questions at this time. Thank you, Demir.
Commissioner Abwali?
No questions, thank you.
My question for staff, and maybe the petitioner team can address it, is looking through the petition, I see elevations, but I don't see elevations including even the signage that would be representative of the business name. So do we have that information? Because to me, it kind of, if it's suddenly a marijuana leaf, I wanted to know what staff's position would be relative to the advertising.
Well, the city does not regulate content, so they can have a sign that represents their business. It can be the name of their business or something associated with their business. So the city would not regulate that content. However, it cannot be perceived as advertisement. So a normal wall sign would be permitted. They've indicated that they would comply with all city requirements for signage. So, and they're not proposing any changes to their storefront. It's all on the interior, so there were no proposed changes on the, to be included for the zoning packet. So yeah.
I guess maybe that's something that we can approach it with the petitioner, but I'd certainly like to see that included in the packet before it moves forward to city council, because like I said, I think that including a puppy splashing in a puddle could be something for a dog wash, right? That a marijuana leaf could maybe be advertising.
Yeah.
Mr. Millat.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. The state statute is very clear on what they can or can't do in terms of their signs. For example, you can't use, and I'm reading right out of state statute, cannot include any image designed or likely to appeal to minors, including cartoons, toys, animals, children's, and it goes on and on. So it's very regulated through state statute.
Okay, that was answer to my question, so, all right.
The reference to the cannabis leaf and the children's images is also in the 6.07.100
Okay.
reference that I raised.
Yeah, a lot of those licensing provisions that Commissioner Magal is referring to was taken directly from the enabling legislation of the state.
Okay, all right, thank you, and thank you. All right, I don't have any additional questions for staff, so we will invite the petitioner team to come on up. And just generally for everyone here tonight, when you come up, please state your name, spell it, give us your address, and then tell us your thoughts. Thank you.
Absolutely. My name is Majbin Solomanji Bertosik. I will spell that. It's a mouthful. Majbin, Mahjabeen, Solomanji, Sulemanjee, Bertosik, Bortocek. Thank you. Thank you for the staff for a very detailed report, and thank you for the commission for being here to hear us today, and thank you for the public for showing up. We appreciate the support here today. My role for High Haven is I'm the CEO of the organization. I'll start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I'm an Elginite. I'm proud to say I've been living in Elgin for a long time. Recently have moved out, but have several addresses. I can tell you from 40 Cypress Square to 1388 Borden Drive to 2469 Hayloft Lane, and as the latest one was 345 Loyola Drive, which you know is close to the address that is being proposed. So I've had the luxury of living and serving this community for a long time. I've done a lot of public servant work with a lot of communities, from senior community, senior services associates to holding chair positions for Elgin Senior Providers Network, and doing a lot of work with Triad at the commission and Chief Zaboda when Chief Zaboda was part of the police department here. So I have a long-standing relationship with Elgin, and I'm delighted to be standing here today to be proposing the first potential dispensary in Elgin. As the CEO of the organization, it's been a long road to get to where we are today. We are a social equity organization, which means that any applicant who was able to be awarded licenses through this particular round for dispensing had to have a disproportional impact due to the war on drugs. And we are that company. We were qualified by the state of Illinois to be qualifying as social equity. We're also a minority-owned company, and as you can see, female-led, which is a tremendous taking in most businesses, but especially within the cannabis space. It's our goal here today to be able to be as transparent and to be able to be as informative to not only the commission, but to the public and to the city in order to answer any questions that they may have, or any reservations that they may have on what our business does and how we might impact the community that we're in. I'm proud to say that I've done this kind of work for quite some time. I had an opportunity to work for some of the bigger companies in cannabis and really understand how cannabis works, not only in Illinois, but nationally. And we've devised a team, or created a team, recruited a team to help us to really understand what compliance in the state of Illinois looks like, and how do we really operate a safe cannabis adult use dispensary within our state. The report that you see has certainly been in favor of having a dispensary. We have met every requirement that the city has asked us to do for zoning, and in several areas within the report from staffing, you'll see that the proposed, this is a quote from the report, the proposed use will not have any detrimental, I'll read it again. The proposed use will not have any detrimental influence on the surrounding use of the properties. And that statement, I think, is really important. We provide a lot of safety and security in any neighborhood that we end up coming to, and we're proud of that. We also have an education company. We're one of the first in the state of Illinois to be able to provide 3 credit hours, CEUs and CMEs for physicians, doctors, nurses, physical therapists, speech therapists, anybody who needs a credit hour. These are accredited by the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign College of Medicine, and we do offer those 3 credit hours ourselves. We also have other responsible vendor education training that we provide. So we really look at education as a foremost of what we're able to do. I look forward to hearing more from everyone who's here today. I'll take notes diligently and look forward to addressing everyone's concerns today. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else on your team that wants to present?
Hello, my name is Gabriel Judd, J-U-D-D. I am General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer for the applicant, High Haven. I'll keep this relatively brief. I know that what you'll hear from most of the public today is concerns for public safety, parking, and then some of the sensitive land uses that were brought up earlier. I think it's worth noting that if you read the report that the city diligently prepared, it says that the police department, which is better equipped than anyone else in this room to address those public safety issues, not only approved of our security plan, but is supportive of our application. So I think that's worth noting, and we'd be happy to provide you a copy of the report if you'd like to see that for your own eyes. With respect to parking, you heard the planning department go through in detail that we've analyzed the parking situation there. We probably have better eyes than anyone else has on that location, and we understand the concerns that people have, but the objective fact is that our business being brought into that location would not have a negative impact on it, and we would meet the required amount of parking for our retail business. And with respect to the sensitive land uses, I understand people's concern. It's an emotional issue. I'm sure you harbor those same emotions when the state approved it. And I'm sure you harbor those same emotions when Elgin decided to opt in. But the fact is that these the conditional use requirements here state that you need to be more than 250 feet from a sensitive land use, and as you can tell from the report, we're more than 400 feet from any such land use. So we appreciate your concern. I know everyone is worried about how these things will play out, but there's a reason why you guys took the time to put these requirements in place, and we have complied with all of them. So I think maybe the rest of my time is best served by answering any questions that the public might have today. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone. Thank you.
All right, just since I asked last time if anyone else on the petitioner team wanted to come up, I'll offer it again. All right.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Dietrich. That's D-I-E-T-R-I-C-H. Again, just wanted to say thank you to everybody that is here to listen and hear what we have to say. We always appreciate all of your time. I wanted to come up and talk a little bit about my role, right? I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for High Haven, and my job encompasses quite a few things, and I want to address a couple things that I know we're going to hear about today. We've already talked about the requirements and how we have met them or exceeded them, and there's going to be more concerns that come, especially with the type of businesses that we are asking to neighbor with, and making sure that the partnerships that we have with these neighboring businesses is going to be beneficial to everybody, but also safe for everybody. That's a huge concern for us. As Maja had already brought up, we actually started as an educational company. One of the very first things that we did is we were one of only 26 companies that were licensed in the state of Illinois to offer what's called a responsible vendor training program. That means that all of our employees, if they have any sort of a badge to work in our facility, they are required to take this course. It is all about the rules, the regulations, what they cannot do, and what they can do. And that is extremely important that we are able to offer that to our own employees. We also offer educational sessions to our neighbors in the community, any sort of information that you need about the sort of products that we're offering and how it can be used in and benefit folks that are not just using it recreational. Even though we are technically a recreational company, we do cater a lot to medical patients as well. Me, myself, I'm an educator. I have a degree in elementary education, but listen, I can teach anybody. I'm also a mother of a teenage daughter, so, pray for me for that. But we concentrate on these things because, family is extremely important to us, and the safety of the people around us is a top priority for us. We know that others are concerned about that, and we want to let everybody know that we do have an open door to discuss these items that might be of concern to you. As Maja had mentioned, we also offer CEUs and CMEs to medical professionals. Again, that is very important to us, and I just want to make sure that everybody just knows how important the safety is of our neighbors, and especially the children that are around us. Thank you so much.
All right, same question. All right, thank you. Glad everybody's laughing. I know you sat down as a group, but we will take the opportunity now as a commission to ask questions. So whether you all want to come back up or come back in turn, it's up to you. Depends how good your legs and knees are. I'll start on my left. Commissioner Abwali, do you have questions for the petitioner team?
I do. I have two quick questions. Is it just credit, or is it a cash business as well? That's the first question.
Yes, please. For those at home, we need to
Yeah,
have
the
everything picked up.
microphone.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So it is predominantly cash. However, PIN debit is currently available, and we will offer that in the store. So it won't only be cash. They will be able to do access through PIN debit as well.
Okay. And the deliveries, how often are they in the back?
Delivery typically tends to happen as we order a shipment, and it could happen several times throughout the week, a few times throughout the week. We typically are able to arrange the range of timing that we want the delivery to come. Also, during delivery, we're oftentimes given an hour heads up to when they're coming in, and then just about 5 or 10 minutes before they arrive, we get another phone call from them letting them know that we're close by. At that time, our staff can do a perimeter check if we need to make sure we're safe and everything is secure, and then at that time, we welcome those people in.
Did you say 2 security guards at all times, or at least 1?
Typically, so it depends on the, population and on what is really, what is typically happening as far as the volume of the customers who are coming in. So, it's really up to some of our discretion, but we also have to follow state guidelines. So there will always be a security guard on site. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I just had sorry. Yeah, you may as well stay. We obviously have no dispensaries in Elgin at this time, and so I'm wondering, you would follow this more closely, I think, than anybody. Crime and any activity at facilities that you're aware of that are in other communities, maybe nearby or far away. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I sure can, absolutely. So I've had the pleasure of working within the cannabis space since late 2014, and in that time here in the state of Illinois, I believe there was only one break-in at a Chicago facility, and I think through investigation they found out that was more of an internal scenario that had happened. So within our community, specifically over these several years that cannabis has been associated, there have not been issues of that. These are really highly secure areas where, security systems are 365 degrees internal and external, along with, panic alarms throughout the facility, and just many other different safeguards for security. To get past any product or any money, you're going through several doors. You're going through one front door, then you're going through a special access door, which is card recognition and typically has card access, and then you're entering a sales floor or a waiting room at that time, and then you go through another door, and then you go through another door, and then you go through another door. So it's several times that you have access points before people are really able to get to anywhere. I think that's public knowledge for most people who have intentions to do something malicious with the dispensary.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Magella, you're next.
I do have a question for the petitioner. Are you aware of the city's 16 conditions it's proposing on its recommendation for acceptance of your petition?
Certainly are, absolutely, Commissioner Magala. We've reviewed this at detail, and the good news is that most of this is also what the state requires us to do. So nothing seems to be out of the ordinary for us, and everything seems very easy for us to comply with.
Very good. Nothing further.
Commissioner Valdez.
When is your target for opening the business?
Well, construction takes some time, but we'd like to get through it as soon as we can. After the commission process is over, after the commission zoning process is over, we'll go through city council. After city council approves us, then and only then can we start for construction. We'll be applying for special permits within the staff, so that can take several more weeks for us to go through that process, and then several weeks for us to continue to go through the construction. So I would say sometime around the summer.
Commissioner Wildenmuth.
Just a couple quick questions. One also regarding delivery. Is that just, I imagine that, it's not a whole bunch of product that's coming in, so I'm guessing it's a smaller vehicle. And I only ask because I know the back where it's employee parking, you've got the drive-through lane, it's just, there's not a lot of space behind that building, so I just wanted to, ask about that. And some of it also goes to the timing of deliveries too, so just wondered if there was any thoughts around that.
Absolutely, thank you for that question. There are typically smaller Sprinter vehicles, and you're exactly right. These are not big semis or anything of that large sort that are coming in, unmarked typically, and sometimes even smaller, like Ford Focuses and different types of smaller compact vehicles of that sort. We have a range of delivery time. Typically, what the cultivators choose to do as part of their security plan is to use different pathways to deliver. So they won't take the same route twice often. They won't make the same delivery time every Tuesday. You see the same delivery from this person at that time. Those become security breaches. So they're oftentimes changing that structure. But our director of operations, along with our security staff and the manager of the facility, will know exactly the time and date of each of those deliveries, and we'll be able to manage that, quite frankly.
Great. Yeah, my only concern was the space back there.
Absolutely.
And then my second question is just wondering if there was feedback from any of the other tenants in the building or conversations that you've had.
Absolutely, thank you for mentioning that. So for a long time in my career, I've championed outreach in the state of Illinois, and really have probably signed up over thousands of medical patients in the state through some of the outreach that I've done. So I pride myself in trying to do the same thing here with our co-tenants or possible co-tenants, if this process is to move forward. We did reach out. I did have a couple of conversations with some of the folks here, with Kumon specifically, having a conversation with the business owner and understanding where their concerns come, and offering any opportunity that we can to make sure that we're educating and providing educational material so that they are easy to communicate that with anyone who might have a discrepancy or have questions around it. So we will supply all of the co-tenants with any material, educational, that they're looking for, state regulations. It'll also include, the prohibitions around cannabis use, and specifically, the 21 and over piece of it. I have explained that in order to get through the dispensary, you have to show your ID, be 21 and over, but then in order to make a purchase, you also have to show your ID. So the ID is checked twice, and because there is no advertising on the outside of our store, and there is nothing around, displays of that nature, that we were hoping that it would not jeopardize any of Kumon's of business. And then likewise, we also had a conversation with Top Shelf and understand what their concerns are as well. I did have a conversation with the gentleman at World Finance, and they are not in opposition. And then same with Dunkin' Donuts, of course. And I did reach out to the rehab folks as well. We didn't have a response back from them, unfortunately, but that's where we're.
All right. Commissioner Gallo took one of my questions about, seeing the staff report. There's also a couple of comments, pages that were submitted. Have you seen those as well? Do you have anything you want to address on those? I think for the most part, the presentation between staff or you has covered them, but just wanted to give you that opportunity.
I think that, we've done the studies ourselves for parking. We feel pretty confident I will say that as dispensary owners and operators, we are meticulous about choosing property and location. We need to make sure parking is accessible because it could be detrimental to our own business if that wasn't available or there was not ample parking, alongside with, of course, the safety and all of that as well, right? So we've really done a lot of our due diligence to make sure that this property is really an appropriate fit for what we're looking to do.
Okay. It looks like we've got a follow-up here. Commissioner McGowan?
Yeah, you mentioned the parking count you did. Looks like you submitted a table here that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? 10 a.m., noon, 3, 5, and 7 p.m. What dates were those?
I can tell you that I believe it was February, the last week in February. Is that right, Tamir? I can look back and check and give you that exact answer. I left my phone right over there. But it was the last week in February, I believe.
Who did the counts?
I did personally.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We were there at 10 a.m. and then at 12, and then again at 3, again at 5 and 7 p.m. And there was no concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Sounds like there's...
February 23rd was the day that it started.
All right, giving everyone a second chance here. Start with Commissioner Valdez.
Thank you. Is there a limit of how many customers will be in at one time? Because I know you mentioned one customer service per 5.
So typically, what it looks like is that the ratios for the sales floor tend to look like a salesperson and then a customer that they're looking for. But in the waiting area, you can have a much larger amount of people as long as you're just following occupancy. So this property, I think, is about 24 or roughly under that square footage. But for us, we would be able to fit whatever the occupancy is in that particular area. They just would not be on the sales floor. So I know sometimes people are worried about lines and things of that nature.
Commissioner Jones?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Commissioner Wildermuth?
Nothing.
Commissioner Abwali? All right, I don't have any follow-ups for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, as promised, we'll open this petition up to the rest of you who have joined us this evening. I have a sign-in sheet, so I'm going to go through this to start with, and then we'll get to anyone else who's in the audience who may not have signed up. So we'll start with Mr. David Lawrence. Are you with us? Would you like to come on up?
Hello, everybody. My name is David Lawrence, L-A-W-R-E-N-C-E. I'm also an Elginite, been here my whole life and stuff. But one thing I did notice with the dispensaries, I travel a lot to California, Colorado, Oregon areas and stuff on my music side of things. And the rush of energy and money that it brings to the areas that those are in is amazing. And I know Illinois is really late on all that, but I feel like them starting this in Elgin would be amazing. Just from what I've seen in real life, like so many people in Elgin go to Schaumburg, St. Charles, I think West Dundee, different locations. And the amount of people from Elgin that go to those locations is crazy. So if they had something here at home in this city, not only is the revenue going to be nice for the city, but I mean, just everything around there is going to thrive, especially Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean? Because people are going to get their coffee, they're going to get some muffins. It's just the nature of the business, if you can say. I know a lot of people that were cancer patients that they were taking medications and all they did was vomit and get sick and they couldn't do anything with their lives. They were just in bed all day. They gave up the medications, they started using medical marijuana and stuff like that. Now they're eating again, they're laughing again, and they're having fun with their families. So for me, I think it would be really great for them to open up here, and that's my piece.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, before you step away, can we get your address, please?
224 South Weston Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
I went back on what I said at the start, so thank you for the reminder. We'll move on to Jane Lampkin. And if I murder anyone's name here tonight, I apologize in advance. I'm doing my best, but please feel free to correct me when you come up to the lectern.
I feel like I'm going to be in the opposite end of everything. I'm not crazy about the recreational cannabis dispensary. My name is Jane Lampkin. I live at 1249 Hathaway Circle. I live in a condominium, and the neighbors, particularly one in our building, likes to smoke, and it permeates into the other owner's unit, which I think is unfair to those that don't smoke it. We also have children in our neighborhood, and I don't think that's fair to have the odor permeating around with children playing. I understand that Illinois law is within so many feet of a daycare or so many feet of, but we have kids in our neighborhood. Would I want, when my daughter was young, would I want that for her to be playing outside and having, it's pretty pungent. So I'm sure I may be in the minority, but I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Sangreta Sama.
Hi, my name is Sangeeta. I'm instructor and owner of Kumon Center, Kumon Math and Reading Center. I'm definitely concerned about this dispensary having in my premises, which is really, really close by, because I have children starting from age 3 until 18, and I also have staff working with me, like who are high school students and also college going students, and most of them are under 18. So I definitely think that this is not fair to have in my in this premises, and that is one thing. And I also have my lease saying that it is not supposed to have, we are not supposed to have within 1,000 feet.
Thank you.
I also have the full lease, I just brought this lease.
Ma'am, you can get back to the mic and then please tell us your thoughts. Thank you. I'm sorry to shut you down there, but yeah, please tell us your thoughts.
I also have the full lease with me. I just gave you just that paper, which is saying about that it is, we are not supposed to have within 1,000 feet in the, where we have the Kumon Center. So that is another concern. And so as she said that, and as you all said that, their peak hours are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and it is definitely conflicting with my center peak hours as well. And during the peak hours, I will be having many parents waiting in the parking lots, and the students and everyone just going outside, especially in the summer. I can't stop them, they just run outside. So I don't think this will be a very safe to have that kind of a dispensary in very closely. And one more thing, as she said, like if at all there is any panic alarm that's going off, that I don't know, my children, how they would react and how the families will be taking it, what kind of issues I might be having in future. And at the same time, again, like when they're regulating the number of people who are going inside, there might be a lot of people who are staying outside as well in the parking lots. So I'm definitely concerned about that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And ma'am, could you please spell your name for us, please? Over here. Hi. That's okay. My apologies. Could you please spell your name for us, please?
Sangeeta,
Yes.
Sangeeta.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have the next name, which I believe is Chris Keller.
Hello. My name's Chris Keller. I'm the owner of Top Shelf Sports Cards. We're at 359 South Randall Road. I sit beside Kumon and the other side of World Finance. I'm also a resident of Elgin, living just a few minutes across the street. We're in the process of building our home just across the street. And I started my business 9 years ago out of the basement with the hopes and dreams of one day of owning a sports card shop in our community. My target demographic are the kids, the youth of today, collecting cards like we did when we were kids. The age starts from the Pokemon age, the Kumon age, probably 5 to 6 years old, upwards of 21 years old. That's our target demographic. We have family nights. It's called Trade Night, where we get everybody together in my store and we sit around and we trade cards. We trade Pokemon. We do fun games. We do events. I host birthday parties. We do special events. We watch sporting events, wrestling events. It is a community for Elgin. That is a community. That is something I'm trying to bring to this community, to the city of Elgin, and I have pride doing it. I sponsor Little Leagues. I sponsor the Chicago Steel. I sponsor the Kane County Cougars. I sponsor our church. I sponsor our school. I'm heavily involved in this community for the long haul. I have concern that all of that is in jeopardy. The reason I believe it is in jeopardy is because I do not feel this is the place for this business, and I do not come here with any prejudice towards a marijuana dispensary or a cannabis dispensary, as you say, as I spoke to her on the phone last week. I was out of town on business, but I took a half hour to talk to her. I do not show prejudice towards that. I understand it. In fact, I've been in them myself to pick up gifts for my friends, some of my veteran friends that utilize these dispensaries. However, this location is not the place for it. It's already busy and crowded as it stands. So my first question would be, how do we get from 99 and where does that number derive from? To me, as a layperson, it seems 99 is derived from their research that shows the amount of traffic that comes here. To quote this gentleman minutes ago, the amount of people that attends these things is crazy. That's from his own words, from his experience traveling around the country. Again, he's talking about dollars and cents. I'm here to talk about common sense. I live in this community. And if there's all this talk that it's such a safe environment and it's so safe and everything and great for the community, I'm all for social equity. I'm all for women-led businesses. However, if it's such a wonderful place, why is there security guards, 6 doors to get through the place, cameras going to be needed on the lights outside and out front for security? That doesn't sound like a safe and secure place that I want my kids coming to. They don't need to be in that environment. There's plenty of other places this can happen. This is the first one being proposed in Elgin, and I am for them. I'm sure they help the community. They're sick people. They have issues, and I'm for that. But I would like to know where 99 comes from. That's my first question. Where does that number, and how do they arrive at a 99 number for a dispensary? Does anybody know?
That,
Sir, could you-
yep.
99 parking spaces, originally.
Unless city staff would like to comment, I think if you're looking for the petitioner, that would be on their opportunity to answer. Would staff like to comment?
No,
Do you see what I'm
well,
asking though?
What I think we ought to do is let Mr. Keller finish his
Yeah.
comments, and then if you
Thank you.
have a list of questions, we will do our best to answer
Thank
those.
you.
I
So,
agree.
again, as a layperson, I'm not too familiar and versed with nuances of law and conditional use permits and all of that things. I see things common sensibly. I know that what we have together here in our building is a tight-knit community with our residents, meaning the tenants that we have. There's also tenants that live in the area that are going to speak their mind. I'm not here to prejudge this dispensary, but I want to know why and how they expect, as busy as it is now, to take on something that was, the amount of people that come to these things is crazy. That's what's going to happen. He is right. He's been there. He said himself he traveled the country, and we're at these. I went to St. Charles. My friends have gone to these places. They are mobbed. So what that's going to do, my fear, is that it's going to turn into a parking lot full of people coming to get their marijuana. I'm afraid that when they get their marijuana deliveries, how is that going to be handled? Are there guards with deliveries when the marijuana is being delivered? When the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids are trying to come in for Kumon? When my kids are trying to have a birthday party that I'm hosting and there's guards out there delivering the marijuana? This is not the place for it on the corner of Randall Road and Route 20. I think it belongs in a more remote place. That's fine. But it doesn't seem to fit right here. The nuance of 250 feet, my other question would be, is through my research, it looked as though it was 1,500 feet for a preschool, kindergarten, those type of places. That may be on the state level. My question would be, how does it get reduced down to 250 feet? What is that process, and why is that so? 250 feet, I mean, that's just silly. That sounds like it's trying to fit in a box, and same with the parking to say 55 will suffice. So if there's 6 tenants and 55 spots, that's 9 spots per tenant that we have available. It's already cramped at different hours, different times. Every picture I've seen must have been done at the break of dawn or at the end of the day, because there was no cars in any of those parking lots. That looked beautiful. I understand that. But come on a Saturday morning when Kumon's busy. Come on one of my days when I have a trade night with my customers. We're there now. This is our building. That is all I have to say. The other question I did have to ask about was what makes this a conditional use permit? Because I don't understand that completely. Is that already done on the books? Dispensaries can go wherever they want as long as they meet these certain requirements? If that's the case, what are we doing here then? Is this already a done deal? Is there common sensibility, or is it dollars and cents? Because it sounds to me like dollars and cents. Again, he mentioned how much revenue and money this brings in cash. And I have concern about the people in the neighborhood that have preconceived notions about a dispensary. I can't control their preconceived notions, their prejudice. But I know in the summertime, the kids ride their bikes to my store to hang out and open up sports cards, to trade, to watch sporting events and have a good time. Something tells me that the parents aren't going to allow that to happen anymore. You're not going up there. It's too crowded. It's too busy. We don't know who's outside waiting to get in, since only a certain amount of people can come in at the same time. I think it's going to cause a problem. And this is just a small note that I've had over the last 3 weeks when I found out this was coming in there. Because my fear, and I'll leave it at this, is that it's going to be overtaken like the other ones have in St. Charles and have in maybe West Dundee or somewhere over by the mall there, Jimmy John's. They park in the mall and everyone walks over. The customers and the people in the community are going to say, I'm not going over there. Can't get in. Pain in the butt. Not worth it. I lose my foot traffic I worked hard for all these years. And finally manifest the store for the community and my kids to be proud that Daddy has a store that's now in jeopardy because of simple traffic issues. If we had a Walmart-sized parking lot, all for it. It's legal. It's already been voted through. Recreational weed, can't do anything about it. What's done is done. But what we can do is use common sense and look at the actual numbers and say that it's not fair. What's going to happen with deliveries? When the marijuana arrives, what does that look like? That's a high-value asset. Moving the money around at night. Are the guards armed that are doing this, or are they just hired hands? Because there's 5, 6, 8, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds on bikes riding around. No way in hell I'd let my kids go up there like they do in the summertime with that is happening, when marijuana deliveries are coming and somebody wants to pull a heist potentially. And my final thing is, keep in mind that if the police are on alert and the police are on board with this, I don't have to call the police when I open up my sports card store. It's family oriented, family business, family traffic. I don't have to put the police on alert. I don't have to add extra cameras. I have high value assets in my store. That's the other thing that concerns me. Looky-loos, passing the time. Let me go walk around in Top Shelf. Ooh, look at all this. I don't want that. Don't need it. Am I going to have to get more security now? Because if they need security, what about me? Do I have to hire armed guards now? It's concerning. And the final thing is to keep in mind of the drive-through line. If they're going to be taking load-ins in the back with the drive-through line, I don't even know how you're going to do that, because it's dangerous enough trying to get around in there. It's just not the right place. There's no parking. And I would like you to think about that. I know we have meetings ahead. I thank you for your time, and I will yield back to the next person on the list. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next name on the list is Norm Roach.
I'm Norm Roach, spelled like it sounds. I live at 310 Loyola. I'm one of the neighbors. I'm just concerned with extra traffic in the area and trash blowing around in the area. The traffic flow at that little shopping center is, I don't think there's adequate parking spaces, either in number or in the width and layout. It's, if you're in a larger vehicle, it's hard to get in with a pickup truck or an SUV, and the lanes aren't wide enough in general. And the trash blowing around, like from the restaurants, and on the other side of DePaul too, on the other side of South Street, it's a mess down there by Burger King and, you know, McDonald's, and we like to walk to Aldi's and we have to walk through the trash to get there. The city doesn't take care of DePaul. DePaul Street itself is kind of crumbling away. They come there, you know, somebody comes and throws a little cold patch, blacktop patch around there, and not too often. The city, you know, the gutters, curb and gutter areas are dirty. People walk there. We walk dogs there, go for a walk and whatever, and it's just always dirty on the backside of that little complex. That's mainly it. I'm worried about the traffic flow and the amount of extra traffic we're going to get. So, okay?
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Deborah Radke.
Hi, my name's Deborah Radke, and I live at, excuse me, 310 Loyola, and there would be so much more traffic coming down DePaul, right behind our condos. I mean, so close, just over the berm, you know, it's close. I don't know how many feet it is, but, you know, when Dunkin' Donuts came, there was a lot more traffic, but now this is really gonna bring a lot of traffic. DePaul is a crumbling road. It's just practically all gravel. It's, anyway, my heart breaks for Top Shelf, you know, working so hard to have his business and being real concerned, and I certainly see why, you know, of the children and everything being there, and if there's too many people hanging outside of the dispensary, and I know that does some good on some things, but I wish it would be in a different area. And Kumon also, with so many children going in and out, that I just would hate to see any problems with extra people hanging outside the dispensary waiting to get in with so many children, you know, at those businesses. I don't know what else to say. I just, it's going to be so close to our back door, our patio door, you know, the traffic, so much extra traffic, and having a hard time finding parking. Maybe when you came in February, there might not have been that much people out, but wait till the summer when all the kids are going to the card shop and they're going for summer school. There's going to be a lot more people parking there than the few that you saw February 23rd, unfortunately. I'm not, you know, trying to badmouth you or anything, but there's going to be more traffic. There's going to be more people out, more children, and there's going to be a need for more parking. Even at Dunkin' Donuts, more people are going to be coming there, bringing their kids for ice cream. Right next door to this place that, you know, you're asking to get approved. It's just not the right place. It should be out farther away from children and residential. It's just, it's not right. It's not a good fit, and I really wish you could find someplace else. There's got to be someplace else, so, for everybody. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, next name on the list is Mary Mitterat. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mary Mattori, and I live at 340 Loyola Drive, directly in back of like Dunkin' Donuts and the proposed site. I could stand on my patio, and even though I have a bad shoulder, I could hit it with a stone. It's very close. I kind of wonder what my resale value is, how it's going to be affected to have a dispensary that close. If somebody were to buy it with children, they probably wouldn't want to. I also wonder about the safety aspect of it. I think that I know it can be very beneficial for medical purposes, and I don't deny that. I have friends that use it, but I don't think that's the place for it. I can sympathize with Kuman and the card shop. I think that I would be very hesitant to send my kids to that place if I knew there was a dispensary there. And I'm not downplaying anybody. I don't mean to sound like I am putting a label on anybody, but you have to wonder if there's any kind of a risk of security, of people trying to support their habit. Could they decide to try and, lead to theft at different houses along the area? The other thing that I know that they have said that they aren't going to allow use on the premises. Well, what's them to leave that? What's to stop them from coming around the corner, going down Loyola, and parking in our parking lot and using it? It just doesn't seem like it's the right choice, the right place. I understand the need for it in many places, in many instances, but not here. So, thank you for listening. Take care.
Again, thank you for coming this evening. All right, next name on the list is Walt Hollander. Is that you? Well, you got up to let this young lady in, so might as well come on up.
And my name's Walt Hollander. That's Hollenver, and I live at 340 Loyola Drive, next door to this young lady. My concerns have to do with security and the deliveries. Our unit looks directly into the parking lot where the deliveries are made. That's also the drive-through for the Dunkin', and it's also the place where they have what I'll call the squawk box, where they place their orders. So any traffic that's coming in there, basically interfere with that traffic. That's not really my concern, but I wonder how long does it take to make a delivery? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? How long are they going to be there? And will it be supervised by one of those security officers at the time that that's happening? That's one thing. The wetland that's just south of the properties that are in question here, I believe that's part of College Park. I'm not sure, but I believe that there's a wetland right there that's not for environmental reasons and not for children, but just an observation that might be considered part of the park. What else did we have here? Well, I agree with everything that's been said up to now. That their concerns are my concerns. The DePaul is known for a large quantity of traffic coming in and out, going to the Tuffy's. They'll stop along the way coming back out of Tuffy's to check their brakes or whatever they've done, file paperwork. So there's more traffic there that's going through there. There's also large, I shouldn't say large, there's a number of motorcycles that come down DePaul already will motorcycles be more of a problem for us? Because they make a lot of noise for my wife and myself. We hear them, you know, morning, noon, and evening. So that's pretty much it. Can't think of anything else right now. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe we've got some of the petitioner team may have signed up here. So Liz, and so we got a name here, Julie Linen.
Hello, I'm a resident. I also work for a physician.
Ma'am, I got to pause you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If you can give us your name, spell it.
Julie Lynham, Lynam, and I live at 350 Loyola Drive.
Sorry about interrupting.
Okay,
Gotta get
no,
that in.
no problem.
All right, please tell us your thoughts.
I'm angry about this, and this is not right. It's too close. I know each and every one of you would be upset if it was near your house, the proximity. It really should be in an industrial center. I work for a physician, and I set up the marijuana for the patients and getting their ID cards and everything. And so I'm all for it, just not in that location. I've spoken with the people in St. Charles and West Dundee about their dispensaries, and they have events where they have the manufacturers. There is a WWF manufacturer that goes to the St. Charles dispensary. The crowd it brings that is so enormous. The traffic is on North Avenue. There isn't any parking. So the lines it creates around the buildings to get in. Now, as far as advertisement, both facilities have what is called digital coupons, where they give 5% off of their purchase. When that happens, there is enormous influx of people. There has been people that have passed out in the parking lots in St. Charles and in West Dundee, where they were unconscious, and the police don't come until they're called. They monitored in the beginning, and then that's it. What is Elgin Police going to do? How are they even going to get in, first of all, to monitor? And an industrial park, that's where St. Charles actually started. And it got so big that they actually moved to an old Jared building off of 64. And they, even to this day, have problems with parking. And they're in a complex. And, you know, given St. Charles and West Dundee, they don't have the element of people we do in Elgin. They don't have the gang task force that Elgin does. We have Belmont and Fremont, or Fleetwood, excuse me, just east of us. Those people are going to be coming, that traffic's going to be coming through our neighborhood. And who's going to protect us? They have security, what about us? Who's going to protect us? And that's not fair. And it's way too close. And if you guys actually cared, you'd think about the kids that are going to Kuman, because their parents are not going to allow them to go there. They're going to close down. That's what's going to happen. And how long is their lease for? Is their lease 1, 2 years? What is the lease? You know, because after a while, they're going to be bringing in the tax revenue that's going to be huge. And, you know, they're eventually going to move. But what damage will they have done to my property value at that point? You know, it's a scary thing. And but I am for legalized marijuana, just not in that area. It's not right. Thank you.
Thank you. The last name I have on the list is Sam Yim. All right. With the petitioner team, so I'm getting, all right. I've exhausted the lists I have, but if there are others in the audience who have not commented and want to, now's your opportunity. So I'll start on my left, just kind of sweep across the room here. Like to speak? And were you sworn in earlier, sir? Were you sworn in earlier? Okay, come on up.
Hello, Jesus Rodriguez, 315 Washington Street, Elgin. I'd like to say I understand you guys are scared. There's definitely a different element happening. But like you said, you also visited a dispensary for a friend. Our clientele that comes to the dispensary usually quiet, usually is in and out. They don't want to make noise. They don't want to make ruckus. I know from experience, when I'm going to a dispensary, I'm looking to hurry up, get in, have what I need, and go home, or go about my day, right? There is lines, of course, we see them everywhere, but if you ever pass by them, nobody's really talking. Everybody's just sitting there, looking forward, get in line, get in, get out. And involved with garbage and that they just will produce. I would say that most of the stuff is in containers, sealed, locked, and mainly hold the product. So it's not like they're gonna let go of it, throw it to the garbage, and take what's inside and go about their day. You know, they take their product with everything. So adding garbage to the environment, I don't see that happening. And with kids, I mean, the age limit is 21, right? There's no one allowed in the premises that's not 21. So I feel that the kids who are around the area and going into the buildings, going in and out, driving in and out, will not be affected by people who are trying to go into a business and produce a product, get a product, and go home. There's no conflict, I feel, with when it comes to the people who attend these places and their interactions with the environment around them. They mostly are head down in the line and try to go out. I don't know how many people have visited dispensaries, but me personally, there's no speaking, you know. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, continuing to sweep across the room. We'll speak. All right. Sir in the back? No. All right. Yes. Where are you, ma'am?
Hi, hello. My name is Veda Maturi, Veda Maturi. I'm the daughter of the owner of Kuman Elgin. I'm really just a high schooler, so I'm not sure how much my word matters, but I think it's important to see it from our point of view as well. We live down in Palatine, so I go to from high school, and I would say, like, yes, it's very cool that marijuana can be used recreationally, and I do want to be a pharmacist, so I do want to learn about different types of drugs and stuff as well. But although that it is targeted towards individuals 21 plus, I think it's incredibly easy to gain access to these drugs, even drugs recreationally or regularly as a high school student. I know many individuals myself who have access to different types of drugs and weed, and we have several in school suspensions happening all the time. And this is with having a police officer on premises at all times. and we have search dogs that come in to search lockers as well. And there's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong, but I do think it's illegal for individuals under 21 for a reason. And with Elgin High School and Elgin Community College so nearby, I don't think it's the best influence, especially because curiosity is such a fostering thing in children and high schoolers. It's so easy to get access that just the spark of curiosity could spread it, and it's not the best influence for our students. From my point of view, especially because, we're the future of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, continuing on my way across. You're okay? All right. I believe we've covered everyone. I think it would be not typical to have a redirect. No, getting advice from staff here. So no, if we had your thoughts earlier. I've gotten the head shake from staff, so I believe that's not going to follow the proper procedures for this commission. But I will look to Community Development Director Malott.
Let me offer, in the interest of allowing everyone to make sure that they've had the opportunity to express their concerns and ask their questions. Hold on. This is a public hearing. It's being recorded, so we need to have a modicum of decorum here, where one person speaks at one time, please. So, Chairman Cox, I would encourage you to allow one more opportunity for persons to make their follow-ups. But in the interest of everyone's time, there's no need to repeat things that have already been said, because it's not a matter of multiple people saying it. As long as one person said it, then the commission will take it under consideration.
Mr. Malott speaks on our behalf. Yes, our ears open, and I've got a list actually of questions that would like for the petitioner or staff to respond to afterward. And of course, the team on either side can volley that question to the other party. But yes, sir.
And so I would only ask is, we too have been keeping track of questions as they go. Would you like us to kind of answer what we've heard and have the petitioner provide some feedback on what was said, perhaps answering questions that might be asked, or would you like to get all the questions out? That is certainly the purview of the commission, sir.
I appreciate that. I think that just getting the questions out would be good, as long as everyone abides by what you suggested, where we just something new. Let's just
Sure.
knock it out. Okay. So again, starting on this side, working my way across. No prejudice against you, Mr. Keller. Just doing the same pattern. Okay, so we're over here. I believe I saw hands raised. But if you're gonna speak, I don't know. Can we get a mic to her, or is that breaking some kind of protocol?
Sorry, hold on one second.
We got to get it recorded.
Yep. I will come to you. I'm like Phil Donahue. Should I do the lean?
Just in defense of Dunkin' Donuts, when you were talking about deliveries, Dunkin' Donuts gets their deliveries during the middle of the night. Very seldom do they get them during the day, once in a great while, but they don't affect the traffic or parking or anything when they have it delivered.
Okay, I believe we've got that one noted. Question for the petitioner is about the delivery process, so thank you. All right, continuing my way across the room. All right, question, I'm going to ask you, since you're only on 2 legs, not 6, if you can come up here.
I'm under the impression that ECC owns the wetlands. So how would that affect that
So-
school property?
The wetland question is in my notes for staff to respond to, so we got that, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, continuing across the room. You jumped in, but all right, come on up, sir.
Yeah, we do need name and address for the record, please.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
my name's Walt Hollander, and I live at 340 Loyola Drive. And just a quick question, will we be able to have a chance to add to this after the meeting, by written? Can we add written questions after this meeting?
Staff, go ahead and answer that one, please.
We would take written comments, but there won't be an opportunity for a
Okay,
back
well,
and forth.
yeah, that's fair.
Right, so
That's
if you
fair.
have comments, you're
Yeah,
welcome to address them to my office. be happy to give you a card.
Okay.
And you can, we will include them with the material that goes to city council. However, we can't have any back and forth via questions because there's no opportunity for the petitioner to hear that. My pleasure, sir.
All right, and I believe then we've swept across to you, sir, so come on back up, please.
My memory was jogged when they mentioned trash. As it stands now for my business, I do have a conflict with Dunkin' Donuts multiple times about them using my dumpster for their donuts, for their milk, spoiled milk in summer. We've worked it out since then, but as it stands, zoning commission, there's no room for more dumpsters. So my question would be, what is the plan to add in, how many square feet is this, thousands? 3,147 square feet. My store is 1,700 square feet, and I have 2 dumpsters. We go through out of boxes and packs. So my question would be, with the parking spaces that are already limited, where are the dumpsters going to go for a potential, any tenant for that matter, that takes that space? Where would those go, and how would that be zoned out? Can we see that? Because that's very important, because it's already jammed in there with Dunkin' Donuts and my 2. They only have 1, which is why they were using my 2. So that would be my question about the trash cans.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Noted.
All right.
All right, looking to staff, do you want to go through your list, and then I'll see
Sure.
if
You
there's
want
anything
to
on
cross
mine?
off as we work through ours?
I
and
would love to
if
do
there's
so.
Anything that we happen to miss?
Yep,
Please
absolutely.
redress.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. So there's been several questions about DePaul Drive and the current state of it. That's a private street. So that is on the owners of this property and the property to the north, as well as Tuffy. I'm sure there's some sort of a maintenance agreement, but the condition of that is the responsibility of the business owners. If in fact, now that does not mean that they're not subject to compliance with the property maintenance code. So if there are code violations, then those can be addressed in that manner. Same as it goes to litter, as that is private property. If it ever gets to the point where it bothers you that much, please call 311 and tell them that the litter is bad. A code compliance officer will visit the property and make sure that it gets taken care of. As it relates to motorcycles, my apologies, it's a private driveway, so that for whatever reason, there are users there that are attracted to that particular business. There's nothing that we can do about that. There was a question about state statute and a separation requirement of 1,500 feet from parks. That's not accurate to the best of my knowledge. What is in state statute relates to a 1,000-foot limitation on advertising when you're within proximity to a public park. And we've talked about the advertising limitations, and Commissioner Magala had the excellent suggestion of modifying that language. So that is what that talks about. There was at one point rules regarding separation amongst cannabis businesses, but it's my understanding that those have since been relaxed. There was originally a 1,500-foot separation between like businesses, but it's my understanding that that has since been relaxed, especially for social equity applicants. State statute makes it very clear that the purview to zone for these types of businesses is with the locality. They can either prohibit or allow outright, or it was asked what is a conditional use. And for the benefit of our audience here and those watching at home, a conditional use in the state of Illinois is very close to a permitted use, except that it requires a process through which the unique nature of the use is reviewed against standards spelled out in the zoning ordinance, and it requires a public hearing, which is where we're all at here tonight. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission, as is charged here in the city of Elgin, makes a finding against those particular standards, and finally a recommendation on to City Council. The ultimate decision regarding conditional uses is that of City Council, and the process here in Elgin is that the application is first considered by City Council, and the legislation is at a subsequent meeting. So essentially 2 readings of the particular matter at City Council. I think that is that.
So it is not a foregone conclusion, as we've heard tonight and in previous sessions.
Thank you for adding that. I appreciate that, Chairman. It's been asked about the boundaries of College Park. College Park as a boundary, their westernmost boundary is essentially a southern extension of the street, which is immediately to the east of Loyola Drive, so it is not behind Loyola Drive. It has, thank you, Demir. What's that street that is just to the east of Loyola? Mine's not.
Notre Dame Lane.
Thank you, sir. So you can see that those houses that are on the west side of Notre Dame Lane, if you draw a line from their backyard straight south, that is the extent of College Park. So it is more than 250 feet from the subject property. It has been asked whether the wetlands are owned by College Park, and they are not. They are owned by, oh, sorry, I had it here. They are owned, the wetlands behind Loyola Drive are owned by, of course, we're going to get College Park Square Property Owners Association. So that answers that question, if I may. And then I'm going to defer to Mr. Latinovich to talk about the way in which the parking is calculated and ask him to also emphasize the difference between the regulatory nature of parking and the demand side of parking.
The question was about number 99. I believe the reference was to 100. So yeah, so there's the code as it stands right now, the existing uses and the proposed use, the total number of parking spaces required is 100. So every different land use and different business has a specific parking requirement that they have to provide on site. So a retail use such as a top shelf card shop as well as the dispensary, they're both considered retail uses. They're required to have one parking stall per 250 square feet of floor area. Restaurants are required one per 60, and other uses have other requirements. So when we combine parking requirements for all uses on the property, the total parking requirement is 100 parking stalls. There are only 54 stalls on the property, so as part of this zoning approval, a departure from the parking requirement is necessary, and that's something that's part of this application and the consideration tonight. So I believe that takes care of all this.
Right. If you could talk about the previous reviews of businesses at this location, especially as it related to Dunkin' and the unique nature of their particular use and the grant, the parking departure that was granted because of the reliance on the drive-through lane.
Yeah, so I mentioned in my presentation that back in 2021, when Dunkin' was allowed at this location, we had to analyze the actual parking demand on site. Because when Dunkin' came in, we did the same analysis in terms of what's the parking requirement, and at that time, I think it was in the upper 70s, 78 parking stalls that were required based on the tenants at that time and the vacancies. And while Dunkin' restaurant requires one stall per 60 square feet, their actual parking, true parking demand is far less than their regulatory requirement because they have a drive-through lane. So the majority of their customers utilize their services. They pick up the goods through the pickup window. And so at that time, they indicated that approximately 80 or 85% of their business comes from the drive-through service window. So if the restaurant did not have drive-through service window, all those customers would have to actually park on site, get out, go into the store, and so they would occupy the parking on premises. With the drive-through service lane, the majority of the business comes from there, so the parking remains vacant and available for other tenants. So that same assessment we did this time around. We required that the applicant provide actual parking counts, meaning they had to go out there and assess how many parking spaces are occupied. Which they did, and as we suspected, the busiest times were on Thursday late afternoons when Kumon has sessions and the physical therapy space is open, and obviously the top shelf card is open. However, during that time, as was indicated, only 30 parking spaces were occupied. Even if that fluctuates, there still appears to be adequate parking for the new tenant space. So that was our way of assessing the parking situation.
Yeah, it's worth underlying here that zoning ordinance parking requirements, what we often refer to when we're talking about the regulatory requirement, those are very general in nature. And so when we have an application, not just like this one, any of the other instances where we've had applicants come to you and suggest that they need a departure from what is the parking requirement, we ask them to document to the best of their ability, either based upon the unique users of a particular facility, their past experiences with, you know, franchises, for example. Dunkin' is well documented, the reduction of parking spaces that they have, to ensure that we're not, to the best of our ability, we're not creating those potential parking problems. And so what we're trying to remedy is the difference between the regulatory general parking requirement and what is the real world nature of the demand generated by these particular users. So that's why we had High Haven give us the counts in the area based on their experience in operating other dispensaries. There's a couple other principles of parking demand management here that are also worth reemphasizing, and is what Demir was alluding to earlier, the notion of shared parking. That when users have a generic parking requirement of 1 per 250, it doesn't immediately mean, boom, all those cars are going to be there and they'll always be there and forever. It ebbs and flows, and that's why we look at peak parking demand for those specific users. So we're looking at the specific users who perhaps, as in Dunkin's case, have the actual demand reduced by a drive-through lane. What is the actual instances where the majority of those customers will come? And then the other element that's worth reminding the commissioners about is a concept of turnover of parking. It's often why you see downtowns have parking meters or other time limitations, because that's another way in which you turn over parking spaces. Think about a sit-down restaurant versus a dry cleaner. The usability of that parking space when you go and sit down and have a meal could be an hour, hour and a half, versus a dry cleaner, you're in and out in 5 or 10 minutes. And so that's why we asked High Haven to communicate to us, what is the average instance of a customer interaction, and they estimated anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, which suggests a very high turnover. So all that comes into play. So I think that should answer, at least provide a response to some of the questions. And Commissioner Cox, I think the last items I would perhaps offer that the applicant might address. There was a question, several questions about the nature of deliveries and the timing and the security. And while it was discussed earlier, I think it would bear repeating. Commissioner Magala had also asked the applicant, have you reviewed the 16 conditions suggested by the city? It's important. One of the conditions that is in there is that no deliveries may come before 10 a.m. So a lot of the commentary that we heard about potential conflicts as it relates to Dunkin's heavy use, which we just suggested is a good thing to minimize parking demand, well, it also means there's going to be people in that drive-through lane. We've suggested that there would be no deliveries prior to 10 a.m. so that there's no conflict in which that would operate. So with that, if I may, perhaps the applicant would then come and explain a little bit more about the way in which deliveries are handled.
I'm going to see if you want opportunity to answer one more question.
Oh, did I miss one?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know if you even want to touch this one.
All right.
Without corporation counsel here.
All right.
And for what it's worth, you answered questions I didn't have on my list, like the motorcycle one, because I didn't think that was your responsibility. As a citizen of Elgin, I wouldn't have actually expected to put that on you. My question for you is, having passed our copy of the lease, did you have any thoughts on that, or would you like to add any thoughts to that? Is this a private matter?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Having just been presented with this for the first time, it's difficult to see what context this is in. Are there opportunities for negotiation of particular terms? We're just unaware. I think that this would be something that the applicant should, they may be equally just made aware of it for the first time themselves. I think that's something that they should speak with the landlord about and try and find out whether there is some resolution. That being said, it is a private contractual matter. So I am going to be, this card here is for you. if I may. And if you would, please be so kind as to send me an electronic copy of your full lease, so that, is that a copy? You sure it's not your only one? Okay, all right, well, now I have one, and we'll take a look at it, right? And we'll redact particular financial considerations and then make a copy available to the applicant so that they're aware of it as well, okay? Is that all right? Okay, great.
And that was really what I was looking at, was that staff would address it, and I
Yes,
believe
sir.
you have. So I'm going to agree with you that we should be looking to petitioner. I've got 4 items on my list. If you want to add the 5th one about the security, by all means, but if it's okay, I'm going to start with my list. But again, I need you to come back up here when you're square, whomever, again, one, none, all. The delivery process, can you tell us about that?
CH?
Sorry, your mic wasn't on there for a second, so. All right, you're good now.
Elizabeth Dietrich. So we were talking about the delivery process. So I know this is a big concern. One of the first thing I want to say is that we are bound by a lot of state regulations, one of which is that we are not allowed to accept deliveries outside of the time that we are open. So it will never be before 10 o'clock in the morning. It will never be at 9 o'clock, after 9 o'clock at night. We can't do the overnight delivery thing, anything like that. It has to be while we are actually open for business. We take a lot of time to work with the manufacturers, the cultivators, the infusion processors, all of those guys, to get those delivery schedules going. We try and space them out so they're not all showing up at the same time, anything like that. The state regulation does require that there are a minimum of 2 people inside that car. As we mentioned, it could be a small car, it could be as big as a Sprinter van, is about as big as you're going to get. Those are licensed transportation professionals that are going to be doing that. So they are trained in some of the extra security that we require. What they're going to be bringing in is bins. These are things that you can carry in your hands. The actual physical delivery will take minutes. They'll get their van or car there. That product comes into the facility. If they need to move their vehicle into a better spot, all of the processing and everything will happen within our secured areas that we have set for delivery. They are only allowed to come in the back. That's another thing. State regulation, they may not bring any of these products in those front doors where any of the kids are talking about being out at, Kumon or, buying cards, anything like that. This all has to happen in the back. We are not even allowed to do it through the front. So that process, like I said, will be very quick, in and out for those guys. And then, we get that stuff in and then we, process it into our inventory after the fact.
Okay, there was a question about the drive-through space and line clearance, but I think by talking about delivery times, I believe we've answered that one. One that seemed relatively innocuous, the length of the lease was a question.
How long is the lease? Is it 10? It's a 10-year lease.
Okay. Question about trash enclosure. I don't know if that's actually you or staff. Maybe I should have asked the staff that question.
Go ahead.
I think you guys said it was private, so it's something we'd have to, I think, work out with the landlord, but it is an excellent question and definitely something that we would want to address. If trash pickup is already a problem, then we would like to work with the other tenants to make sure that it is not overwhelming to have, one more business in there.
My hope is, my editorializing is, since this center has a certain number of spaces, hopefully there would be enough space provided that would, hopefully there was some forethought about it.
Right. This is a vacant space that had been occupied before, so there had to have been some arrangements for that user.
Right, so it's not the first water over the falls.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Doesn't mean it's not something to just, again, sweep under the rug, but if you're willing to work on it, that's great. And then the last question, which Mr. Malott appropriately pointed out should be talked about, is the security conundrum, I guess. It's this, we really need all the security, but it's safe. So please talk to us about that.
Yes, and that's a lot of what I have written down here to talk about is about the security system. I know there's a lot of questions about it. And again, just sort of starting with, we are bound by a lot of state regulations. The reason that we have this monstrous security system is because we're required to. We are not afraid of our customers. The type of people that come and shop at dispensaries are not the people that would concern most. They're great customers. And they're coming into, to get a product at a higher level, we'll say, than what we would consider our biggest competition, which would be the black market, which is a whole other thing, and that's for the police to handle. Our security system is, I would say, elite. It is almost over the top. We're all concerned about, we've got children there, what happens, we have this front door is the only door that you're able to walk in without some sort of a key card or a buzzing in. And there's a little man trap, essentially. You come into this front door, you don't get into the second one until your ID has been checked, you have been verified that you are in fact that person, you have a valid ID, all of that. So, anybody walking in there who's not supposed to be in there, they don't get past that second door. Our security sits behind it's usually a glass enclosure. So there's really no, personnel in this enclosure that, again, you cannot get through that without some sort of a badge. And the ones that we've had before have been both a badge and a PIN code to get into that first one. Then, getting back into where the product is, as we said, there are multiple layers of doors, again, with badge access and sometimes PINs. This security system allows us to state who is even allowed to do that. If we have I don't want to say lower level employee, storefront level employee, maybe they don't have access to the vault. Those are things that we are able to do with our security system. The security system also includes an overwhelming amount of video surveillance. It is required, again, there are many, many requirements. Every single inch of this place has to be under video surveillance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have to have a 30-day backup system, and that system is also able to be accessed by IDFPR, which is the Illinois Department of Professional and Financial Regulation, and state police and local police. At any time, any day, they are able to go in and look at our cameras and see what we are doing to make sure that we are following all of the regulations. If that system is not working, we must shut down business. We are not allowed to operate. We also have some state verification systems of all of the things that we're processing, the sales that we're processing are also monitored by the state. So every single product, and I'm saying one individual product that comes into our business, it is tracked, it is monitored when it leaves the doors. We have to do inventory every single day. These things are watched very, very carefully. We're a new business, we're a new industry, and we have a lot of extra regulations to hop through, which I know sounds overwhelming. Why do we need so much security? Because we're required to, but at the same time, it does make it very safe. All these children, they do not get in our doors. They don't even come close to our doors. It's not possible. One of my other responsibilities in this company is human resources, and I promise you, they are trained. They are trained heavily, and if you are not allowed in there, you are not allowed in there.
Those are all the questions I had, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so as promised, look back to staff for any final closing comments.
Nothing further to add. I think staff still stands by our recommendation to recommend approval subject to the conditions outlined in the packet. And with that, I know there's been some conversation about condition number 9 regarding advertising. And if I may, I wrote down possible language, Commissioner Migala, if that is acceptable. The condition would read as follows. The applicant shall comply with restrictions for advertising outlined in section 6.07.100 of the municipal code as amended.
That meets my concerns. Thank you.
Okay. So that would be the condition 9 would be replaced with the following language. The applicant shall comply with restrictions for advertising outlined in section 6.07.100 of the municipal code as amended. You're welcome. And so, yeah, with that, staff recommends approval subject to those conditions with the change to condition 9 as outlined.
Is there any discussion, starting on my left? Am I right? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for these petitions, which I just moved to the side, which are 05-23 and 06-23.
Chairman Cox, I recommend we approve petitions 05-23 and 06-23, subject to the conditions outlined in our packet as amended tonight by the city, and adopt as our findings of facts those findings of facts proposed by the city as well.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Wildemuth? Staff, please call the roll.
Commissioner Migala?
Yes.
Commissioner Ubermuth?
Yes.
Commissioner Abwali?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Valdez?
Yes.
And Chairman Cox.
Yes.
The motion is approved 6-0.
All right, thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Certainly stay with us, of course. Next item on the agenda is item G, other business. So anyone on the commission have anything for discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to item H, which is public comment. For anyone in the audience who'd like to comment about anything except the petition tonight, now is your opportunity. Again, about anything except our petition tonight. But if not, I mean, by all means, come on up.
Will we get notice of the city council meeting when this comes up?
I will look to staff, since that is a general comment, so the question was, will there be notice about petitions? I can say if this is a general question, will petitions be noticed to the public?
No. The city,
How do we find out when it is?
Sir, if you got a few questions, I'd invite you to come on up to the lectern. So those are, I want you to be heard by all means, but I also want anyone at home to hear the process,
So, and as Chairman Cox said, that's an excellent question. It's one we get very often. So what we just participated tonight is a public hearing, which requires public notice. It was the mailings, it was the sign, it was the newspaper. When it goes on to city council, then city council gets the benefit of all of this. Because of our wonderful court reporter here, she was taking down word for word everything that was said. And all of that will be communicated to city council. That being said, you may want to continue to follow the process. So if you go to the city's website, which is very simple, cityofelgin.org, and you scroll towards the bottom, there's a big box that says agenda and minutes. And what you want to look for is the city council agenda. They're typically posted on the Friday before. So the next possible one would be March 22nd. It could be either the first or second meeting in April. So follow along. They're typically posted on either the Friday, no later than the Monday before the city council meeting, and you can scan through those and look for the agenda. It'll be listed by the address, so that'll give you a notice of when the city council is going to take up the matter. Okay.
Commissioner Jones,
Zoning items are on the city council agenda at the 7 o'clock.
Will it go to the first and then the second?
So it would go.
Committee of the whole and then the council?
No, it would go
All
to, it would go to city council at 7 o'clock. So it would be the 7 o'clock meeting for consideration, and then depending on what happens with it, we'll determine what happens at the second meeting.
okay, sir, if you want to come on up to the lectern, please.
It's just a general question.
That's fine, but again, we need to pick it up for those at home. Thank you.
The public hearing this evening, again, please help me understand this process. It's all new to me.
Sure.
The public hearing this evening, all sides presented their opinions. I was under the impression that they would convene and discuss all items that were brought up this evening. What decisions were made tonight as a community citizen? Is that how it happens? It's just that, and then it's, yes, it goes through? Or I thought they would convene and go over everybody's items and kind of discuss it. Is that not what is going to happen?
Well, I would not want to presuppose what each individual commissioner was weighing as they cast their vote.
Okay.
Their deliberations on their own. They're provided in advance with the staff reports and get the benefit of hearing both the presentation by the applicant as well as the testimony and the comments that are offered by the public. As it relates to what is the outcome of this public hearing, this body, which is the Planning and Zoning Commission, makes a recommendation. It's not a decision, it's a recommendation on to City Council, and City Council is the final determining body.
I see. Okay, that's what I was trying to get clarity, where it goes from here.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
All right, any other public comments? Hearing none, look to staff now for the summary of pending development applications.
Just a few things of note. The city council meeting this week on the 6th, the council will consider several petitions. One of those is the Seasons at Elgin development. That's the apartment complex, 280-unit apartment complex at the southwest corner of Hops and Randall. As you may recall, the commission required the applicant to submit a parking study, which they have. The study confirmed our assessment of the development, that the widening of Hops was going to be is required, and they were proposing that, and it's adequate. So with the traffic study in hand, they're scheduled for the consideration by the city council on Wednesday. And then a couple other things. The one at the outdoor storage for a business at 418 Airport, and then the Chinese Mutual Aid Association's their offices at 357 Division Street at the Holy Trinity Church. And our next meeting is on April 3rd. We will most likely have several applications before you, but those things have not been finalized. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And I have an announcement, if I may, Chairman.
You may, but really very quickly, anyone have any questions for Demir? All right.
Great.
Go ahead.
I am delighted to share with you that at the last city council meeting, they allocated almost $70,000 to launch a feasibility study of widening Route 20 from the Long Common Weld Pinch Point further west out to Coombs Road. I know this has been a particular sore subject for Commissioner Magala, regularly asking him about it, so I'm delighted to be able to respond that that is going on. The road, as you all know, is under the purview of the Illinois Department of Transportation. However, there's currently not funding nor any plans to look at widening of Route 20, where it goes from essentially a 4-lane divided highway, pinches down to 2 lanes with a couple turn lanes here and there, and yet is asked to carry nearly the same amount of traffic all the way over to Nestler. So that's not to say that you'll see construction in the next year or so. It is a long process, but this is essentially the preliminary work that will produce a conceptual design, and then we will go back to City Council and ask for, hopefully for money for Phase 1 engineering. At the same time, we'll be certainly looking for outside sources to cover the expenses of Phase 1 engineering and hopefully construction costs.
To crack a terrible joke, this study will pave the way for the future, right? All right, so, all right. And I'm sure that keeping in mind we're all volunteers, we'll also get a raise of $0 from that.
A percentage increase.
Right, very.
All right, but
very
Commissioner
good.
Magala, I appreciate your patience and thank you for continuing to ask about that. It is certainly an important project.
It's, yeah, I've been asked about it certainly by multiple members of that area.
All right, any other questions for staff? Hearing none, then the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Staff, please call the roll.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Valdez,
Yes.
Commissioner Abu Ali,
Yes.
Commissioner Magala,
Yes.
Commissioner Wildermuth,
Yes.
and Chairman Cox.
Yes.
Motion's passed, adjourned.
See you April 3rd.